You ready?
Ready.
Hey, here we go.
All right.
Hi, everyone. It's Brad Du Bois with the Plainfield Chamber of Commerce. We are here today to hear from Andrew Klinger, our town manager, about the state of Plainfield in 2021. Hi, Andrew. Thanks for being here today with us.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate this opportunity to be able to share the message here today, and appreciate all the help that the chamber provides with the town.
Very good. Thanks for being here. So tell us a little bit about 2020. I mean, besides the obvious, a lot of things happened in the last year.
It's been a crazy year, and now that I see that my in-laws are actually watching this, I may have to go back and revise all my comments. So just give me a second. No, I will, if you don't mind, I'd like to take some time and give some prepared remarks, and then as we get to the end here, maybe we can do some question and answer. And I see Stephanie is helping to bring in some questions right now. So yeah, if you don't mind, I'll get started. Is that all right?
Yes, that'd be great.
All right. Well, first, I'll just say thank you again for helping to host this event here today. And I really do appreciate the ongoing partnership that the town has with the Plainfield Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce helps to make our community a better place to live and do business. And I appreciate those efforts. So thank you. And also thank you to everyone who is watching today. As I said, I'm going to start off with some prepared remarks, and then we'll hopefully open it up to some questions at the end. So yeah, as you said, Brad, as I reflect on this past year, obviously there is one storyline that has just dominated all of our lives. It was just over 1 year ago that the COVID-19 outbreak was declared to be a state and national emergency. And the Plainfield Town Council also declared a state of emergency, as one of the earliest recorded cases in Indiana occurred right here in Hendricks County. In a matter of days, all of our lives were dramatically flipped upside down as we quickly absorbed information about this virus and the deadly impact it would have on our community. As a nation, over 29 million people contracted the virus over the last year, and more than 500,000 people have lost their lives to this pandemic. In Hendricks County, the toll includes approximately 16,000 cases and 300 deaths. The pandemic has left a destructive trail across the globe, and Plainfield was not spared. Beyond the virus itself, a mental health crisis has also loomed, created in part by isolation and the stress of uncertainty that has undoubtedly taken and broken many more lives. But this is not a message of doom and gloom, but one of hope. Martin Luther King Jr. once said that only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. Well, we have had the opportunity to see many stars in the darkness of this past year. When everyone was called to isolate, our town employees launched into action to make sure that the most vulnerable among us were still able to access groceries and needed prescriptions. The town created a resident assistance program in just a matter of days, working with local grocers and pharmacies to deliver the necessities of life to high-risk residents in a safe and contactless manner. As our schools were forced to transition to distance learning, the town stepped in to help. The town of Plainfield contributed $350,000 to Plainfield Community Schools to support their one-to-one technology initiative. The town's IT department also worked to increase access to public Wi-Fi in town parks to make e-learning easier for all families. As we were all asked to, the town of Plainfield worked to make sure that everyone had access to a supply of masks. We have distributed more than 3,500 masks to the community for free at our drive-through distributions at Talon Stream Park. The most recent was just last Saturday. Plainfield's first responders, in the face of this viral threat, continue to do what they always do, receiving and responding to calls for help 24/7. The pandemic brought a growing number of emergency calls, many of them people who became severely ill and needed transportation to care facilities. Our first responders worked relentlessly to meet the need. Still, they mustered the energy to conduct the occasional drive-by birthday party with lights and sirens, for children who were no longer able to celebrate with extended family and friends. On September 11th, we were able to honor our first responders, past and present, and show our appreciation for their steadfast service when we dedicated the new Celebration of Service Plaza at Friendship Gardens. I encourage anyone who hasn't had a chance to see this to go to Friendship Gardens and go check it out. It's a really nice space in honor of our first responders. As these critical personal needs were being addressed, the town also turns its attention to the impacts of the pandemic on local business. For the most part, Plainfield was well positioned to weather the economic storm caused by COVID-19. E-commerce and logistics facilities like Walmart.com and Amazon saw above peak volumes in online ordering and home deliveries. The local logistics industry also helped to move necessary medical equipment and supplies in response to the pandemic. Many local logistics firms continue to have job openings available for job seekers today. So anyone dealing with unemployment, whether COVID related or not, need not look far to find their next opportunity, as there are many job openings in the community right now. For many small businesses, though, on the other hand, the impacts of COVID and isolation had significant impacts, particularly in the traditional retail and food service industries. Our unique Main Street businesses and restaurants create a thriving local economy and bring vitality to our community. So in response to their need, the town council adopted a small business response plan. First, the town leaned on a trusted partner, Level 2 Co-working. In support of their ongoing mission to help small businesses, John Anderson at Level 2 has worked tirelessly over the past year to provide valuable technical assistance in navigating the complicated world of federal aid programs, like words like PPP and other programs that have become part of our lexicon over the past year. The town also directly addressed the financial needs of small businesses by offering grants to those in need of some instant liquidity. The Crisis Response Grant Program was done in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce and Main Street Plainfield. Main Street Plainfield was then able to distribute additional funds to downtown merchants using grants received from Duke Energy and Plainfield Christian. The support of our local businesses here in Plainfield has truly been a community effort. The town continues to look at ways that we can help small businesses, again, in partnership with the Chamber. The town is working on and developing a small business revolving loan fund program that will provide small businesses new opportunities to recover and grow as we come out of this pandemic. While dealing with these issues, a new challenge emerged in 2020. The death of George Floyd at the hands of a police officer in Minnesota brought racial tensions to the forefront of the national conversation. Of course, the tension and anger that was expressed in the streets of our cities was not just based on one event, but the result of fear and frustration that many people in our society must endure on a regular basis. Stories of both subtle and overt racist attitudes were revealed in communities around the country, as well as right here in our own community. These stories honestly condemn our society and call us all to change. We can start that change by simply listening to the struggles of others. As equality, inclusion, and diversity became the focus of conversations throughout the nation, our Hendricks County community leaders came together and spent time listening and responding with compassion, empathy, and action. The town of Plainfield helped to lead the way. Our communications director, Stephanie Singh, and police chief, Jared McKee, sought out community conversations and participated in countywide discussions on race, equality, and policing. Town officials worked with the Hendricks County Community Foundation to formulate a vision for the county as a place where all feel welcome and confident in their ability to belong, connect, and grow. The town leadership has an unwavering commitment to ensuring that diversity inclusion is a foundational characteristic of our community. But it will take all of us to achieve a truly inclusive and just community. In the midst of these conversations, we were reminded by longtime resident Jamie Gilbert of the history and hope that Plainfield can bring to the discussion. Mr. Gilbert was one of the first African Americans to graduate Plainfield High School, where he was a member of the 1943 sectional basketball team. While Mr. Gilbert certainly faced discrimination and barriers through his life, he always only spoke of a Plainfield community that embraced and accepted him. Jamie Gilbert devoted his life to making the town of Plainfield a more inclusive place to live, work, play, and worship, not by grand gestures, but simply by reminding us of our core values and our best intentions. We were saddened by the loss of Mr. Gilbert in this past year, but his star continues to shine in the darkness. His vision of Plainfield as a beacon of equality and justice for communities around the country will live on, so long as we continue to do the work to promote understanding. The town of Plainfield continues to see new growth. The heart of our community, downtown Plainfield, has been a focal point of new investment over the last few years. The town opened the new parking structure this year, adding roughly 250 new parking spaces in the downtown area in anticipation of new developments to come. The Barlow, a public-private partnership with Rebar Development, began leasing its 117 new apartment units and commercial spaces, even as the finishing touches are still being applied to the building and grounds. The town broke ground on a new government center at Mill and Main, and the building is quickly coming out of the ground. Infrastructure investments have been made in utilities, key roadways, and pedestrian corridors, with more investment coming for downtown infrastructure this year. Recently, a letter of intent has been signed with a local development team that will hopefully bring new life to the Pruitt Theater building and the adjoining office building. That project will work to preserve another historic element of our community and attract visitors to downtown. In another historic preservation effort, the town also moved a historic home from North Center Street to South Mill to make way for new development. It is not often that you get to see a home lifted up and moved down Main Street. It was a sight to see and will be a memorable moment for all of us who made it out to watch. The town regularly collaborates with the Plainfield School Corporation, including a couple of really big projects slated to open later this year. The town is providing road improvements and utilities to serve the new Guilford Elementary School under construction on Moon Road. And the school corporation has worked with the town and provided land for the construction of the new Made at Plainfield higher education facility located just north of the high school. Made at Plainfield is a 100,000 square foot building that will house post-secondary programs offered by Ivy Tech and Vincennes University. Programs will include IT, medical assisting, and of course, logistics and supply chain management, among others. The MADE project will also house the Department of Homeland Security's Fire and Public Safety Academy, which will be a great complement to the Law Enforcement Academy already headquartered here in Plainfield. Both the Guilford Elementary School and Made at Plainfield projects are on schedule to be open for the fall semester this year. As the pandemic has brought on new stresses for everyone and complicated an existing mental health crisis, help has arrived in the form of the new Hendricks Behavioral Hospital in Plainfield, located on Southfield Drive next to the Hendricks Regional Health Medical Center. The town continues to see strong demand for housing as well. Quick sales of existing homes and rising land values drives interest in new home construction. New homes are going up quickly in Bridlewood, Vandalia, Del Webb, and Whitmore Place. A unique new community, Haven Homes, is under construction right now on Stout Heritage Parkway. A partnership between Sheltering Wings, Commons Behavioral Health, and Real Family Services, Haven Homes will provide safe and affordable apartments with support services that promote independence and stability for families in need. Nearby, a new 55 and older community, Encore by Samaritan, is also under construction just south of the shops at Perry Crossing. And the new Courtyard by Marriott is now open adjacent to the Brew Burger. On the industrial side, we are seeing new tenants coming into newly constructed facilities in the industrial parks on the east end of town. Companies like Stitch Fix and Mission Foods are growing and bringing new employment opportunities to the community. We're really just hitting on all cylinders right now. in spite of a pandemic. This economic growth has been a stabilizing influence on the financial condition of the town. While it may be some years before the town feels the total impact of COVID, the town staff has worked hard to secure well over $1.1 million from the Federal CARES Act funding to reimburse many of the town's expenses related to the pandemic. The recently approved American Rescue Plan is expected to deliver additional federal assistance to replace lost revenue. At this time, it is anticipated that the town will not be required to draw upon rainy day reserves as a result of the pandemic. In addition, I would note that the town council has actually lowered the town's property tax rate by almost 14% since 2013. With thoughtful stewardship from the town council, the town is well prepared for the future and ready for the new investments in infrastructure and amenities that will be necessary to support a growing community. Recently, the town received a boost from the state as the State Department of Natural Resources awarded the town with a next level trails grant in the amount of $1.7 million. This grant will help fund a 2.3 mile extension of the Vandalia Trail. If it was 2.3 million miles, that would be pretty amazing. 2.3 mile extension of the Vandalia Trail that will extend from the existing trailhead at Township Line Road all the way out to Raceway Road. That project is expected to start construction next year. Another great amenity will be completed this year, and that is the new Peewee baseball diamonds at the Allen Jan Barker Sports Complex, which will be ready for play this summer. In the past year, the town completed significant road improvements to Carr Road, as well as the intersection of East and Main in support of the Barlow project downtown. We also saw INDOT invest nearly $7 million in repaving and striping of US 40 and Main, which is our Main Street, just in time for the Quaker Day Parade to make another run down Main Street last fall. I'm so glad that the Chamber was able to make that happen last year, and I look forward to another great Quaker Day Parade this year. While many events were canceled in the past year, our Parks Department still found ways to safely host some of our traditional events, including Saturday and the annual puppy pool party. The Chamber of Commerce once again decorated the town with Christmas lights, and our Parks and Fire Department joined forces to find a unique way to bring Santa Claus to the kids, the young and the old varieties, by bringing Santa to every neighborhood around town. This was in fact so well received by the community that I expect Santa will make a return for another tour this December, pandemic or not. As we look forward, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel for the pandemic. The governor announced last night an eventual end to emergency orders, an elimination of several state health mandates, and that vaccines will become available for all Hoosiers over the age of 16 in the coming months. The rest of 2021 shows great promise. I look forward to the farmers market reopening soon. Preparations are being made right now at Splash Island to be up and running for the summer. Tomorrow will be a better day than today, and Plainfield will be brighter, stronger, and better together. Thanks again, Brad, for the opportunity to present the state of the town. And I think I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
No, I think that's fantastic, Andrew. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for everybody that's watching. Currently, we have 80 people on this webinar, so that's kind of cool that there are some folks that are interested in what you had to say, which was quite a bit, I might add. There were a few questions from Facebook. Let's get to those first. A mask mandate in Plainfield. Someone's asking, are they going to keep that, or is that something the town council is going to make any kind of movement on, or is that solely from the state?
Yeah, so that's, the town has always followed the lead of the state on that. The town never imposed any sort of mask mandate outside of our own facilities. And so you heard the governor say last night that even as mask mandate comes off, state government facilities are still going to require masks, and state employees will still be required to wear masks. I imagine it'll be similar here. we've never imposed a mandate on any private individuals or businesses, but we have a mandate within our own facilities. And we will continue to have those things in place until, we feel that it is safe to be able to move back from some of those things. But again, that applies primarily to our facilities. If you're doing business with the town, we would appreciate if you'd wear a mask when you come into our facilities. But that's something, again, we will continue to look at as we monitor the situation. And certainly the vaccine getting out there is a huge factor in that. And for, we're still sitting here today where only a portion of our employees have been able to go out and access the vaccine. But once that opens up to 16 and older in April, we're going to see more and more of our folks being able to get the vaccine, and then we're going to be able to reevaluate some of those types of restrictions. So.
Yeah, I have a hunch that question was in relationship to the Richard A. Carlucci Recreation Center. So
yeah, that's one that we will certainly have to evaluate as one of our facilities, what those mask requirements are.
Yeah. Another good question that came across was about the MAID project and how someone or parents or students may get information of specific programming and signing up and such. Is there an avenue for that?
So as the building is still under construction, I would say the best way right now might be to reach out to the partner, our educational institutions that are partnering with us, and that's Ivy Tech and Vincennes University. But you could also reach out to HCN, the Hendricks College Network. Brandy Perill has been working with us through this entire process. And she's been working with the educational institutions in terms of kind of managing what programs would be available or not available through Made at Plainfield. So any of those sources right now is the best way to go. We are still kind of ramping up what the operational entity is going to look like for that group, and there'll be more information out there as that is put together. But right now, I would go straight to those educational partners about what programs they intend to offer, because they're already advertising and enrolling students for the fall semester. So now's the time to look it up for sure.
Yeah. Well, since we're on that topic of MAID, there's another question too. As far as the education options and the focus on jobs, what kind of jobs will the training provide from the MAID? Is it specifically towards logistics? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, certainly logistics is a big part of the industry here in Plainfield. And so it will also be a big part of the programming at Made at Plainfield. There will be, as part of the project, a working warehouse facility there that obviously will train and prepare folks for jobs here in Plainfield in the logistics industry. However, the programming goes well beyond just that, right? So as I mentioned, there will be programming in IT. There will be some programming in medical assisting. And so, those can lead to jobs at various medical facilities or senior living facilities. IT jobs can get you in the door just about anywhere. And there are also plans for a diesel tech facility. So there will be, training in the diesel tech area that can lead people to jobs in that area. So, there's going to be a lot of different opportunities for people coming through that program.
I would imagine that's kind of a moving target. As things change, programming will change there as well, I would think.
Certainly.
Yeah. Let's see here. I've got another good question. Can you comment about the Performing Arts Center and how that's going?
Yeah, so the Government Center, which is under construction right now, in terms of design, the town hired an architect and we did a design that really combines two buildings, and the first building being the Government Center, which will include town council chambers as well as offices for the Chamber of Commerce. As hopefully we can get you out of your temporary digs and into this building next year. The second part of that was the Arts Center, right? And the two buildings are connected, but really are two different buildings and phases of development. So we're focused right now on the Government Center piece and that development phase. But we are quickly coming up on some decision making here in the next month in terms of how we will move forward with the Arts Center, and that's a decision for the council to make. What we've done over the last 6 months is some questions were raised just about how COVID impacts the arts and what does that mean for our pro forma on the Arts Center. And so we went out and got the assistance of a group called Keen Independent Consulting, who I was very impressed with these folks, and not only their knowledge of the arts industry, but also just the general economy and how economic trends are impacting the arts. And they've put together a report for the council to view, and there will be some decisions being made here soon in relation to that report in terms of whether we want to move forward with the Arts Center or not. And so those decisions are coming up, and that will be, like I said, the next phase of development. We could never move forward with the Arts Center piece until the government center piece is done, because I'm sitting in a building right now that will have to be demolished in order for the Arts Center to be built. So our focus is get the government center done, make a move, and then we can focus on that next phase of development.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Another question, and I'd not heard this before or even thought about it, but are there plans for a vaccination clinic at the rec center at all? This comes from someone on Facebook, or actually someone joining us here today.
Yeah, I am not familiar with any plans for a vaccination clinic at the rec center, though I would say that that's not a bad idea, and it might be something that we can talk to our friends at HRH, as I'm sure right now they're running all of that through the 4-H fairgrounds, right at the county fairgrounds, and I tell you, I've been through for my first shot, and encourage everyone to go out and get vaccinated. I go back through for my second shot here soon. I just gave away my age probably, but I tell you what, they have an amazing operation going there at how quickly they can handle really a large volume of people, but do it in a safe way where everyone is distanced and say, I mean, it's really a pretty amazing operation they've got going on there. So if they are looking to add, and we heard the governor say that they are going to be trying to expand opportunities for vaccinations, we can certainly talk with HRH and see if that's an opportunity.
Sure. Yeah, it's not a bad idea at all.
Yeah.
Another question, this is one that you'll like to comment on, the old fertilizer plant on Vine Street. Can you speak to that at all? What's going on with that, or?
Yeah, certainly. And as you know, you have a role with the Plainfield Community Development Corporation, and the CDC is actually a key partner in that property right now, and the owner of the property. And so the Stanley property, the CDC was able to acquire it in the past year, and is working closely with the state of Indiana right now for environmental cleanup. And that is going to start moving forward very quickly. I think you'll see some things happening in the next few weeks, if not already started. I'm not sure, but that's going to be happening very quickly as the site gets cleaned up. And I believe the CDC is, interviewing potential developers for the redevelopment of that site. And so things are moving quickly. The primary focus right now is just environmental cleanup of the site. But we see some opportunities for redevelopment of the site in the course of the next year or two. So you can probably answer that one better than I can as your role with the CDC. But
I'll let you speak officially.
Okay, that's what I know. So
there we go. You're pretty much on target. Another question. This is really one that I think a lot of people are interested in. With the housing market being as it is, and inventory being very, very, very low, and homes selling very quickly, usually over listing price. Are there any plans with some new housing developments around Plainfield to help with our growing population? Or anything you can talk to about that? Any kind of residential development?
Yeah, it's probably too early to say anything concrete, but there are definitely a number of proposals that are kind of floating around out there that developers have, asked for input from staff on, whether it meets our requirements or not. And so until something's officially filed, I wouldn't really want to comment on anything specific, but there definitely are a number of different proposals that are kind of floating around out there. We did see this past weekend, two different property owners that had petitioned for annexation, one being, kind of the north of Gibbs Road, and then one being down the John Hall property. And so, those annexations obviously are precursors to potential development of those sites. And I do want people to understand that annexation just means that they're asking to have those properties brought into the town jurisdiction. Then those owners still have to go through a development process. And of course, a notice would go out to neighbors and surrounding property owners about those. In both cases I just mentioned, there would have to be a rezone of the property, and then ultimately a development plan on how they intend to develop the property. So it's still too early to really say exactly what those things will look like, but there's definitely a lot of interest. Yes.
Sure. Yeah, I know. Again, given the market the way it is, I'm sure the local realtors would be happy to see some more development. So,
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the shops at Perry Crossing and how that impacts the town specifically, because I know the town's helped them along the way, and how that clawback may be coming, that whole thing. And then how is the town trying to help them to maybe get back on their feet? I know there's been some issues there.
Yeah. So, first of all, obviously it is a very important asset to our community as a regional shopping center. It's the only truly regional shopping center in Hendricks County. It has immense value to the town. And as you said, the town has participated with the current owners as Pogue. We've worked with them over the years to help incentivize the remodel that they've done. And I think, it just looks fantastic. They've done a great job with it. There's been some stories out there recently about their financial situation, and that the property was being foreclosed upon. They have been working with their bank over the course of the past year. And my understanding is I think they're working some things out that will keep the property in Pogue's hands going forward. I don't know that anything's confirmed yet, but just know that they're continuing to work with the bank on that situation. And of course, the town's going to continue to work with them and other property owners in the area. I mentioned a couple of the developments happening right there at Pogue. The new hotel is open. The Encore project is under construction, and you have a lot of available land to the south of the mall that is very much in demand. And our planners have been working with the property owners in that area to develop a master plan, similar to what we did with downtown when developers came to us about doing projects in downtown. And we said, hold on, let's do a plan and let's get a feel for what we want to see in terms of new development in downtown. And we created that downtown conceptual plan back in 2017. And now we're seeing that, going forward. We're doing the same type of thing around the mall area right now with it's really just a handful of property owners that have property in that area. We're working closely with them and with consultants to put together a master plan for that area to kind of cast a vision of how we see that area developing. And as we conclude that plan, and Encore already under construction, so there's already pieces that are happening even as we're doing the planning process. There's another hotel that has been approved for the mall property right by where the Colada unfortunately used to be. I wish Colada was still there, but they did not survive through the pandemic. But there are plans for another hotel on that site, which I understand should start construction later this spring. So there's some things already happening, and we're trying to plan for future developments around that mall area. And particularly a project like Encore that's bringing new residents into that area. And as we bring new residents into the area that are able to really even walkable, right, to walk to restaurants, to walk to the shops, you start to see those local businesses become supported by that. And so, that's the objective here, is to, focus on some infill development around the mall that will help to support the retail shops that are in the mall and the restaurants in that area. And I think there's really good days ahead for the shops at Perry Crossing. And there was an IBJ article put out not too long ago about the property and some of the financial issues, but the gist of it was there's still, there's a lot of positives going on out there, and the growth that's happening in the area is going to support that mall. And I think we're going to see new stores coming in. I think it has a very, very positive outlook. So I'm excited to see where it's going to go in the next, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I think it's a reinvention of retail. Retail's not, it's going to be an ever-changing face for a little bit, I believe, the way things are.
Yeah, and I'll say this, I'll add that, Pogue, I feel like, has been on the cutting edge of that, of understanding the changes going on in retail, and have been focused more on restaurants and entertainment and other types of retail establishments rather than your traditional like clothing stores, right? And they still have those, but I think they're diversifying the types of stores that you might see there, and in the end, I think it's going to create a really nice complex.
Yeah, I would agree. Another question from the chat is Crewson Street and the plans to expand and widen it. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that takes us back to the downtown conceptual plan that I just mentioned. One of the issues that came up through that planning process was making sure that we had good east-west connectivity through downtown, because right now the primary east-west connectivity through downtown is Main Street, and we know that it carries, as a state highway, federal highway, it carries a significant volume of traffic through downtown right now. And so we were looking at alternative options for east-west traffic, and working with our transportation engineer and others, kind of settled on Crewson Street as being the corridor that would make the most sense to provide that, and to make improvements and provide that connectivity through there. So part of that is related to the situation going on with the government center right now. A lot of people used our parking lot out here behind Town Hall as a connection between Mill and Center Street to be able to get to a traffic signal at 40. And with the government center under construction right now, that's gone, right? So we actually built out, made improvements to Park Drive to provide a temporary connection. But the long-term plan is for Crewson Street to be that connection again, all the way through. And so again, that's where the CDC's partnered with the town, and the CDC's been able to go out and acquire some property from property owners at arm's length negotiations, and be able to secure some of the right of way that we will need to be able to do that project. And so, there's not, I'm not going to put a time frame on that project right now. Again, our focus is on the phase of development we're in right now. We're of course always thinking about what those next steps are and where the future leads, but I don't know that I can put a time frame on when a Crewson Street development will take place. And most likely it'll be done in chunks. It would be my guess is it'll be done in chunks and at different times over the course of years. I will say that one of the things that I thought was a really neat feature of the downtown conceptual plan was Crewson Street, as it comes from Center to the west towards Mill and beyond Mill to West Street. There's a concept that really kind of opens that up to a plaza type of space, something similar to, I always liken it to Georgia Street in downtown Indianapolis, where they have the big open space in between one-way traffic on each side, that can be an entertainment or event space. And so I think it's a really neat concept, and one that we're going to continue to explore as we move forward with those projects.
Great. Well, since we're talking about roads, there's a few other hot topics here we can talk about. Specifically, let's talk about the ones that are today, which would be Hadley Road and Moon, and then also Hall Road at 675 South. So can you kind of talk about those a little bit? I know you guys posted
I'm sure I really want
earlier
to.
today. Yeah, might be a hot button, but let's talk about those real quickly. And then I've got a third one, but we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay. Yeah, so we had really hoped to be able to do the Hall Road improvements first. And I mean, and we're trying to coordinate as best we can. We would have liked to have been able to move forward on those improvements sooner and have that out of the way before we start to tear up Moon and Hadley. Unfortunately, it's just not working out that way. So there's going to be some overlap between those projects. And so I'll tell you, our transportation director, Scott Singleton, I mean, he's doing the best he can, and he does a phenomenal job in terms of managing these projects. And he's doing the best he can to make sure that we can move traffic through as best as possible, and where there's interruptions, trying to minimize those interruptions. But there are definitely going to be interruptions, and they've already started around 675 Hall Road, and then again at the Moon Hadley. And now in the end, these improvements are going to be worth it. I think as Bridalwood came in as a new development there, it was clear that some improvements needed to be made to that road. And while the developer certainly made some improvements already as part of the development, the town committed to continuing those improvements further to the south, and we're working on that. And then obviously Hadley and Moon is critical infrastructure to support the Guilford Elementary School. We want to make sure that school buses and parents and anyone have a safe way to access the school for pickup and drop off. And so I think those are. I will point out that the Moon and Hadley intersection is not in the town of Plainfield right now, right? Those are actually county roads. But it was important to the town of Plainfield to be able to make sure that we had the right infrastructure in place to support that elementary school. And so we went to the county and, asked permission to be able to improve their roads, which of course they said, sure, and so we're making those improvements. And I think in the end, it's going to be, it's going to cause some temporary concerns and problems, but in the long run, it's going to be worth it. So look forward to seeing those projects wrap up. And but there will certainly be closures. And I'll just say to people, I don't have all the details, but that information is being communicated online. I really encourage people to download our app, the Town of Plainfield app, if they have not, or follow us on Facebook. Social media is the best resource we have to get timely information out. And so I encourage people to access that. And Stephanie Singh does a great job of trying to keep everyone informed, and she will post updates through the construction, through the summer, of changes that are going to happen in terms of flow of traffic and lane restrictions and things like that. So people need to get the app, download it, follow that, and you'll be able to stay on top of the changes that are going to happen over the course of the summer.
Yeah, good. Well, so now the other hot button as far as transportation goes. Actually, there's two more questions, but let's ask this one real quick. Streetlights on East Main from Quaker Boulevard. Are there plans to add streetlights to the county line?
I don't know that I would say there are plans. We're always planning. We're always thinking. And unfortunately, when we made the improvements, we did improvements to Raceway Road and did that realignment, and it looks fantastic. It's a nice gateway into Plainfield at US 40 and Raceway. There were plans at that time to include street lighting along Main Street coming into toward town. I mean, it's in town, but toward Reagan and Perry. And unfortunately, those lights got kind of cut out of the budget. We didn't have the budget to pursue those, so that was something that got dropped. And but it's always something that still is floating out there. And even recently, we've had some staff conversations about how can we bring street lighting to that area. And it's a challenge because it is a federal highway, and just the width of the right of way in certain areas and things. So But it is something that our transportation director is always thinking about and trying to put together plans. So I don't know if I'd say we have a plan, but we are working on plans for how we would be able to make that happen.
Okay, great. Yeah, and that's a long way to the county line, all the way to the town line. That's all the way to Raceway Road. That is, people don't realize just how far that is. That is a long way.
It is, yeah.
Yes. So the hot topic, and I'm not sure that you'll be able to share much, but maybe you can. The I-70 interchange, the new I-70 interchange, kind of a hot button a few months ago, or actually last year, when you were working on the study and it was presented. Any news on that or how that's going?
I mean, I will just say that first of all, understand that we're always thinking about, we're not just thinking about 5 years, 10 years, we're often thinking about 50 or even longer, right? I'll sit down in meetings with developers and say, you know, you got to understand that we're thinking about what's this going to look like 50 or 100 years from now. With that, in terms of an interchange, this is definitely one of those long-term things. It's probably not 50, excuse me, it's probably not 50 years away, but it's not like it's something that's probably happening next year, right? This is down the road, but we're trying to plan and do the right thing to make sure that we're taking into account all the different factors involved, and working with our partners, with the county and with the state and others, to try to figure out what really is the best way to accommodate growth and new development and impact existing traffic patterns. And so we have teams of engineers out there doing studies, looking at different options. So that's, to me, that's where we're at. We're looking at a number of different options. There's going to be more information to come as the engineers look at it and start to kind of narrow down what the different options are and how it impacts the community. And there will be opportunities for public input. So there's some public input sessions that are planned, that are coming up. I don't, Stephanie might be able to post the specifics on that in the chat or something, because I don't necessarily have that off the top of my head, but there will be opportunities for public input as we move along through that process. So again, I tell people,
it's nothing that's, like you said, it's nothing that's going to happen next year. It's a long process.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to happen next year. We're talking, when I came in, which has been 5 years now, which just amazes me, but I think we're still in that COVID time warp where it's not really clear how long that's been. But when I came in 5 years ago, I said to staff, if we think this is going to happen 10 or 15 years down the road, we better start planning now, because interstate interchanges don't, just happen like that, right? It takes a lot of planning and design and trying to muster the resources and all that. So we started that process to be ready for the future when that is going to be needed, to make sure that we have it in place. Because we can talk about examples in other communities around the state where they didn't do the work up front and then found that, hey, we have a traffic jam all over the place because we didn't plan ahead for how these folks can access the interstate. And so we're trying to think ahead and be prepared for where we might be 5, 10, 15 years from now.
Sure. Yeah, it's not an easy task. And I'm sure it'll go through several iterations before you come to a final conclusion.
Yeah, and there's so many, the federal government and the state government, there's so many partners that have to be involved in those decisions too. So it takes a lot to bring everybody together to one solution.
Stephanie just posted, there's a public input session on April 15th. So more information to come. Watch the town's Facebook page. I'm sure that it will be listed and probably in the app too, as far as that goes.
Yes.
So more to come on that. Let's go back to housing real quick. We've got a couple questions about that. One is affordable housing. I know there are some projects out there. Somebody was asking specifically about the status of affordable housing. I think you touched on it lightly, but maybe you can give a little bit more in-depth information.
Yeah, and you already touched on the demand for housing here has pushed values up and up, and you're seeing, people getting above list price offers, and that's great for property owners, but for folks who are trying to get into the housing market here and maybe can't afford those prices, it creates a challenge. And I think the town council and the town management have been very mindful of wanting to be a community that is open to a wide range of people, regardless of income as well, right? And so we have been focused on this issue of providing affordable housing. And we've had a couple projects, that have come through. I mentioned the Haven Homes project, which is going to be a nice project that also provides some support services. And then Keller Development did the Kinley Court project, which is also age restricted housing. And we have several other projects. Well, we have at least one other project that's in development right now. And we've had a few that where developers have presented some concepts to us. And so it's something that we're definitely looking at. And as developers bring projects to us, we're able to assess those. And, so the Barlow is another example. The Barlow is, again, it was a public-private partnership between the town and Rebar. And so part of our condition with Rebar was we asked them to set aside a certain percentage of their units to be below market rental rates, because we know, again, in the downtown market, the rental rates that they're setting for the Barlow, and I will mention that the Barlow, even though it's really not even fully completed yet, my understanding is that they've already leased out 93 units, I think 90. So I mean, out of 117 units, they're filling up fast. And so if anybody is interested in moving to the Barlow, they better move fast. But like I said, they did set aside a number of those units to be, sorry, my phone is going crazy all of a sudden. Holy cow. And I can't figure it out. Sorry.
It's okay.
So anyway.
Technology at its best. So yeah, it's at 80%. That's a good sign. So hopefully, I think that'll encourage some more development in the downtown area.
Huh. All right. Sorry, I cannot. There we go. Finally. I hit something wrong there.
So obviously,
anyway,
people
yes,
do
so the
want to live in
Barlow,
the downtown area, otherwise, to have that many apartments rented already. So, and they are very nice. I will say that
it's pretty amazing. It is really amazing how quickly they're filling that up, and again, set aside some units for below market pricing, and that's really the model that I think we want to see more and more of, is a mix of some below market units mixed in with market rate units and that type of thing. And so we're constantly looking at those types of opportunities. And the other end of it that the town looks at is, the middle of the housing market kind of takes care of itself with developers coming in and delivering product. And it's really on the low end of the market where we want to have opportunities for people to be able to live in Plainfield. We don't want people to get priced out of being able to live in Plainfield. But the other end of it is kind of the higher end of housing. So I figured out my phone, and now I have fire trucks going by. I don't know if you can hear that, but on the higher end of housing, yeah, another area that we kind of look at and are looking at, what are ways that we can help make sure that we're getting those higher end houses built here in Plainfield as well, because we see a demand for it, and so working with developers to try to meet that end of the demand as well. So
yeah, very encouraging stuff. One more question that I have, actually two more questions. One is back to trails. People are always interested about trails. We've got great trails here in Plainfield. Are there any plans to move the Vandalia west?
So again, plan is a strong word. There have been conversations. So, our focus right now is going to be finishing the part of the, so the Vandalia Trail is part of the National Road Heritage Trail System, which is a visionary trail that the intent is to connect Richmond to Terre Haute, right? So all the way across the state, following, the old Vandalia and Pennsy rail alignment. So And of course, named after the National Road Heritage Trail, named after the US 40, which is the national road. So in Plainfield, the last segment that we have not yet completed is this, roughly 2.5 miles on the east end of town that hasn't been done yet, but will be completed as part of this Next Level Trail grant program. And so when that project is done, we will have completed the National Road Heritage Trail from east end of town through the west end of town as it stands right now. To go further west is going to require, working with the county. And the county parks has been pretty aggressive as well at building out their segments of the National Road Heritage Trail. And they started on the west end of the county and are working their way east toward Plainfield. And so we have a gap in the middle, right? And so they're going through a master planning process right now. And from what I have seen, they are identifying additional trail sections as a priority part of their plan, and would encourage people to, go be part of that planning process and make sure that they continue to be focused on that. But I know that they are. And, we've had conversations with the county about, maybe working with them jointly somehow to make sure that the trail is continued to extend to the west and makes a connection into their portion. What I would love to see, and again, it's largely going to be dependent on how the county moves forward, but I would love to see Hendricks County be the first county in Indiana to have the National Road Heritage Trail completed from east to west, right? So as a town, we've done it. There are some other towns along the alignment that have managed to do that. I'd like to see Hendricks County be the first county that has made that connection all the way through. So, but again, we've done our part. We're going to close that gap on the east end of town, and then we'll work with our partners with the county to see if we can get it further extended and maybe access additional grant dollars from the state to make that happen. So
that would be great. And for one that's been on those trails, spent a lot of time on those trails, it does pick up back up in Amo. So we've got from Plainfield to Amo that is not completed. So if you want to be an advocate for that, those that are listening, please do. I think that'd be great to be able to ride your bike all the way from Plainfield to Amo, all the way to Coatesville. So
yeah,
yep, be great, be fantastic. One more question. We're almost out of time here. Meetings, before they were held to 25 people. Let's talk about public meetings and how that looks real quick.
Yeah, so we moved, so obviously we were going all virtual for a period of time. In the last month, we have moved back into what we call hybrid model, where most of our council members and some limited staff are in person, but we have other staff and we've actually had some council members even joining remotely as part of those meetings. And as we move into April, I think we're going to start moving again, as you heard the governor last night talking about starting to reduce some restrictions. And I think we're going to be able to move into more of a standard in-person format as we move into April and May and June. We'll be constantly looking at those regulations. And, one of the things that the governor said was that the limitations on room capacities and event capacities are going to be handed over to the local boards of health instead of dictated at a state level, right? So we will have to work with the county health department, and I'll just note that through this entire COVID situation, we have been working with county officials. Jeff Corder, I'll mention his name specifically. He gets on calls with us. Right now we're weekly, but we were doing calls 2 or 3 times a week early on in this process to make sure that we were coordinating what we were doing with County Department of Health and other county agencies, emergency management, as well as the other towns and communities. I didn't really mention that we do a weekly call of the town managers of Brownsburg, Plainfield, Avon, Danville. More recently, Clayton has even been joining into those conversations, as well as county officials and county administrators. So we're constantly having those conversations. We will be looking at what we can and can't do in terms of our space there at fire headquarters, which is where we're hosting meetings until our new government center is built. And as we're able to expand and bring more people in, we will move more towards full-on in-person meetings. In the meantime, we encourage people to take advantage of the virtual opportunities. We broadcast our meetings live on Facebook where people can watch, and there's an opportunity to comment there. When we have public hearings, people can go online and provide comment. Also, we created a town manager at plainfield.com email address where people can send comments about public hearings or anything they want. Send it to that town manager at plainfield.com email address, and I'll be able to view those emails. And if it's comments specific to a particular project, we'll make sure that those comments get to the council members as well, so that they have access to all of those public comments. So encourage people to continue to participate virtually. I hope soon we will be opening the meetings up to the public, and really, I mean, we had this last meeting hybrid setup, but we did have a resident who showed up, and it's not like we kicked her out. We let her come and talk to the council. So we encourage people to participate, and we have a lot of different avenues where people can participate now, thanks to technology. So.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Well, I think that's all we have time for today. I appreciate all the questions, everybody that was watching. We had over 70 people on the webinar, and quite a few, almost 30, watching it live. So, and there'll be some people that will watch the recorded version too. So, Andrew, thank you so much for keeping us all informed. We really appreciate it. I think the chamber is going to look to maybe possibly do these a couple times a year. Andrew and I talked about maybe doing one in the fall. So everybody watch for that. But with that being said, it's a beautiful day outside. We're in Indiana and everybody's healthy. Hope everybody stays safe. Thank everybody for being here. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Go out
you.
and enjoy that 70-degree day. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.